another party quick tip. And yeah, I got a special announcement. I'll say that here in a few. Just going to kind of go over what we're seeing in current market conditions. And, it's no surprise right now. And I am going to hold on one second, make this live over here, Facebook. Again, I post these. If you're watching them on YouTube, please subscribe to that. They go on a podcast, so you can listen to them, iTunes and so forth, podcast. But I watch it on Facebook here live if anybody wants to comment or anything there. Current market conditions. Here's the thing. We track and trend all of our dealers' data, looking at login activity, and then we're watching the dealers that log in more. They're performing into the software. Are they outperforming dealers that are not logging in? Obviously, we see those trends happening. But the cool part about those trends is we will see. A matter of fact, I can probably let me see if I could share my screen, and then I'll come back. Let me put this over here. Sorry about this, but here, anybody watching this video, I'll share the screen for you real quick, and I'll show you what we're talking about. We're watching, and I'll zoom in here and just look at the black line here. And again, what we look at is what they sold in the last 2 weeks. The goal is to sell 50% of your inventory in 2-week window. So you're selling 100% of your inventory every month. And I want to point out previously back here, when the red being the dealers not logging in versus the green, the dealers that are logging in, you could see everybody kind of peaked. They went up. They started trending up in January and going into February, and then February dropped off. Okay. And then it picked up. And my point is, even the bad dealers, when the bad dealers are doing good, the good dealers are doing good, and vice versa. My point being here is right here in February, the average dealers were selling of our clients are doing 61% of their sales in a 2-week window. That would put them on pace for 122% of their inventory being sold. They had 100 cars on average. Our dealers were going to sell 122. And then you notice that peak and March 30th. And since then, that average has dropped down to 54%. Okay, so upwards 62%, and then going into this first half of this month so far, it's dropped down to 54%. We're also seeing, I'll point out, you could go look at Google Trends and stuff over the 90-day period since March 13th. That's the peak. Shopper activity has dropped as low as 25%, meaning people going to Google looking for used cars. Okay, so there's that drop off. And again, the other thing I always look at is Car Global. They look at retail sales versus retail listings. Now, they haven't updated since March, but you also see this drop off at the end of March. So all that information, what I'm telling you now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, is and I'm seeing a bunch of posts on Facebook, everybody, a lot of people saying, hey, what's going on? We're slow here as everybody else. And a lot of people raising their hands. All right. So this isn't a dire, hey, start dumping your inventory type conversation. I do think if there's 30% less inventory, so if there's 30% less shoppers, it's just going to even the playing field, and you're going to have to probably get back to pricing as normal. That's the other reason it could see a slowdown. A lot of dealerships are asking a premium for their cars right now, and maybe the people just aren't ready to pay that. And so they're buying the cheap deals and kind of slowing things down. So my point, though, the shopper count is down upwards of 25% just a couple of days ago. It's showing a little bit of an uptick here in the last couple of days on the Google Trends. But as we're, again, going back to our trends, dealers are still outselling their inventory on average. It's dropped again from that 62% 2-week sale rate down to 54. So they're still on pace to sell 108 out of 100 cars, if that's what they had. So they're still doing good. That's why it could be a false positive. What I mean, like that, it feels still good. The market, your lot, every lot looks empty. Cars are still flying off your shelf, still getting a premium. So it's a positive, but it could be a false, indication for you to continue to stay strong. Do it. But you have to watch your numbers. We do this with our dealerships, and even our top store, has gone from almost a 70-80% 2-week sale rate down to the 40s now. It was just in the 50s still on Wednesday, but here it is on Friday. He dipped down into the 40%, 47%, I think, in a 2-week sale rate. So we're seeing those trends. And again, just a heads up, you guys are already feeling it. I did a video on this on April 1st, basically kind of doing the same scenario, but it's just kind of playing out now. So, but a lot of people are on spring break and everything and distracted. Maybe when they come back off of spring break, things pick back up. We'll see, but that traditionally doesn't happen. So, and the big point of that is what you're buying today is going to be 60 days old in June. And if the typical pattern happens, meaning it slows down mid-month this month, and then I think it becomes obvious in May. Right now you won't feel it. You'll feel it a little bit, and like I said a couple of weeks ago, you'll feel it in about 3 to 4 weeks, which right now would be about 2 weeks. You'll start feeling it going into May, and then by the end of May, it's obvious if it continues down this path. So by June, that's when dealers probably start panicking a little, or that's when you maybe start pushing out some age cars and dropping prices to really get rid of them and start moving things. By then, maybe, allocation on new starts picking up a bit. And I did a post about this the other day too. Think about that on new cars. The prediction or SARS, still putting us on pace for 16 million new cars, as much as there's lack of inventory. And maybe that'll adjust. That was based on March's numbers. And obviously, April and stuff, it's getting worse. But it's still on pace for 6 million more cars than back in 2009 when the recession hit, because we sold about 10 million new cars at that point in time. It also took about 3 years to get inventory volume back up, because 3 or 4 years, because think about all the lack of cars that they sold in 2009, right? Those cars, it took about 2013 before the values and of used kind of leveled back off. So, because the lack of cars sold in 2009, typically cars that you see, the most popular cars are 3-year-old cars. So, 2009, 2012, there wasn't as many cars coming in. So it took about 2013. Same's going to happen here. So, this seller's market's going to be around for a while. But again, just watch what you're buying. It's going to be hitting in June. Possibly anything you buy now is going to be aged in June. And that might be a time that it's a little bit tougher. So don't be too proud too long. That's all I'm saying. And Randy, that's the part I don't know. Has SARS been adjusted for the parts shortage yet? Don't know. Again, the March numbers, according to Cox, you can look at my Facebook post. I quoted them, but they still have us on 16.1 million sales. So March was still a shortage, right? But we really probably won't know that till April, May, probably May or June. Who knows? That SAR can be knocked down to 13 million, by May or June. But even at that, like I said, it's going to be a big drastic to get to the point of 2009. In 2009, dealers had to pivot to used cars. But also what happened in 2009 was, so dealers, 50%, a lot of dealers went out of business, lost 50% of their new car volume sales. They had to pivot over to used. And then at the same time, they tried to pivot over to used. The government, at their great wisdom, did cash for clunkers and took out a lot of that cheap cars out of the market, which then put more demand on the 10 grand plus cars. And it was a shortage then too, and dealers really scrambled to buy effectively, and they couldn't. It was tough. They're buying retail at that time. So we've been through this before. It's just a different scenario, right? It was economy back then, and now it's a parts support shortage. So but as dealers have been around, they've been through it. They're going to know how to work through it. We've helped. I was with Viato at that time, and I was helping dealerships work through that. We've been doing it now here too. So, special surprise announcement is what's cool. And I'm excited about is I'm going to be doing a used car weekly segment on CBT News. So you're going to start seeing my. I'll be actually going in the studio next week. I'm going to go visit the studio, do some recordings, and some of them will be coming from maybe this particular, my office here, but I'm going to do some in studio recordings. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to continue to do my weekly tips here. We're going to bring some content there, interviews dealers and so forth on their show. So it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So I bring that up. If anybody on here have topics that definitely want to be covered, or people that you want to be interviewed and talk to with the used car oriented, I decided to do a weekly show. It was my choice. Thanks, Doug. It was my choice because, used cars, there's best practices, and I'll cover some of those in those segments in downtime. But this industry, or the used car segment's moving so fast here, and 30 days ago or 2 weeks ago is a different market. So it's a big commitment on my end to do a weekly show, but I try to do these weekly tips, so it just keeps me on my toes. And the fact that I'm going to continue to try to do both without stealing from the show, right? I'm not going to be, whatever content I'm sharing on the show, I'm not going to duplicate in my weekly stuff. With my agreement with CBT News, obviously they want traffic on their site. So excited, going to be recording there. And again, anybody input, topics want to be covered, anybody want to be interviewed, if you're a dealer and you think you got some good best practices and you're willing to share them, those are going to be the best episodes, I think. So hit me up on those. And again, looking forward to that next week, getting it going. We're trying to get the first show out by the 19th, 10 days from now. So it's going to be, you'll see me start pushing some stuff on social media. Again, I went through and helped dealers through the 2009 debacle with used cars, and how to get through that. We're currently doing it now. If you want some help seeing how to get ahead of this market shifts, because it is going to shift for better or worse, we just don't know, but the market's consistently shifting. So if you want a deeper dive in elements of looking at your lot, your data, before you go look at, before you make a decision with market data, let's figure out what's right or wrong and control what you could control. We kind of put, I alluded to, like, it's one of your biggest investments is your inventory. If it's 2 million, 5 million, it's more than the dealer's house, and you got parts, supplies, but it's probably one of the biggest investments of a dealer. And just like your house, you might have sensors on your windows and your doors and cameras to protect your home, your assets, your family, right? That's kind of what we do. We put about 30 different sensors on your inventory and give you some red flags and go, and this doesn't look right. We need to address this issue. What cars are causing those problems? And then let's see if we could go look at the market data and your inventory tool and see what kind of adjustments you want to make based on the market data. But again, I think you need to protect your home first and be able to know where to attack. That's where we're coming in. And we're just an added layer to your inventory management tool. It doesn't matter, VinQ, vAuto, Dealers Link, Max Digital, Inventory Plus. We work with all dealers. Again, we work together with those platforms. So if you like inventory evaluation, lotpop.com. Again, that's why I'm going to continue to do this, because I can plug here. My show at CBT News, it's no plugin. So let me know if you like this content. Anything, again, if you want to be interviewed as a dealer on the show, be happy to have you. And you'll see more from me on that. If you're following this, like it, post it, share it, and appreciate you guys' time. That's a wrap. As long as I can find there to end it. See you.